Hello, good afternoon. So I have the responsibility to close this roundtable. I know it's quite difficult after so excellent panelists. I will present you Picasso. I will tell you later what it means. It's a CCUS cross-border territory project and not only an industrial one. I insist on territory project. You will see why. PAU, where is it? PAU is in the Béarn. The Béarn is in the southwest of France, nearby the Spanish border. I don't know if you can see that. Very close to the Spanish border. It's a land of energy. What does it mean? We were born with the gas of lac and the huge field when we discovered lac in 1970, even before, in 1957, I think, if I remember well. But we have other industry in PAU. We have agri-food industry. We have saffron with about 8,000 jobs in aircraft and engine helicopters. And as you can see, we have major research centers and top-class university also in PAU. Among the famous companies we have in PAU, we have Total Energy, of course, with Airlie Center, research center in PAU, with more than 3,000 people from Total Energy in PAU and about 6,000 subcontractors. So that is a lot. We have a Seveso platform, industrial platform, still very active in LAC, with about 8,000 jobs there in the platform. So we are really very linked to industry in PAU. That's very important. And so we decided to promote an ambitious carbon neutrality strategy, and we want to become neutral for 2040. And to become neutral, what does it mean? It means we will be neutral in the city for the citizens. That's the first ambition. But of course, we want also to decarbonize the industrial platform and to have a neutral industry. That's very important. We have a lot of initiatives, among them, of course, a nitrogen strategy and of course, decarbonizing industry is closely linked to the depleted fields of gas. So let me come back to about 10 years ago, to the first step of the story of Picasso. The first step was the successful Lac Rousse CCS pilot. I'm sure some of them have heard of this pilot, and some of them perhaps came and visit pilot of Rousse. As you can see in the map, what were the objectives? The objectives were really to have a first experience to prove the feasibility of a full CCUS chain from capture to storage. And you can see you have about 20 kilometers from the site of capture to the storage. So 20 kilometers to bring CO2 to the field and to the field of capture, to Rousse. Second one, as an objective, was to experiment oxy-combustion capture technique. To develop also a know-how to retrofit gas pipe. It was quite difficult to think that we can reuse a CO2 pipe, methane pipe, to transport CO2. So we demonstrated in this pilot. And most of all, it was very important to establish a first social consultation of this kind of project, and in order to facilitate the authorization and the permit to inject CO2. That was very important. I am going to focus a little bit on this later on. You can see there the reservoir of Rousse and depleted gas field. And you can see, I'm not a scientist, I'm very sorry, and I'm very impressed in front of so many experts. But you have some figures on the map, and you can see it was injected 51 kiloton of CO2 at about 4,000 deaths, so quite a lot. So let me focus a little bit about social consultation, because of course we speak of offshore storage, and I've heard this morning all the questions we can have about social acceptance of onshore storage, of course. And so the Rousse pilot was the opportunity to make a first social consultation. We needed 27 months from the beginning of the consultation and the first CO2 injection. So it's not too much. 27 months, that's 2 years. So it's not too much. So as you can see, we gathered, it was organized by ADEME. ADEME is the French Energy Agency. And we gather NGOs, many stakeholders, mayors of the cities. I have to say that Rousse is very close from Pau. Lac is 20 kilometers away from Pau. It's the industrial platform. Rousse is really very close of the city. You can see Rousse from the city center. So it was very important. The city is about 160,000 inhabitants. It was very important to explain the situation to the inhabitants, because in Lac you have good acceptance for industrial activities. But of course, near the city, even if it's only 20 kilometers away, it was quite difficult. So we gather all the mayors, citizen panel of citizens, elected representatives, and as you can see, we were helped by APESA. It's an association which is used to lead societal dialogue on environmental studies and topics. And so we have really many working groups and face-to-face interview, passive observations, surveys, quantitative and qualitative data brought to the population. And so the results is that we obtained the permit on May 15, and without really any opposition. That was quite peaceful and without any big discussion. That's the first point. So what are the conclusion of this pilot of Rousse? All these objectives have been achieved and in a safe operational way. We have still monitoring on Rousse pilot. You must know that it's a long-term environmental monitoring. So we have still monitoring on Rousse pilot. And it was, of course, a technical success. It was the first time in Europe we validate a fuel chain of CCS and with oxy-combustion capture and significant CO2 geological injection. And we had this quite peaceful social acceptance. So it allows us to set up bigger projects, and of course that's why we now move to the next step, Picasso. The cost was very high, but it was of course an experimentation, and with a lot of R&D, and so that's quite normal. But you will see then, we will get back to the cost that the French Energy Agency estimates are much lower. So what is Picasso? Picasso is a new business model. I will go back to the acronym. Picasso for Pyrenean Carbon Abolition through Sustainable Sequestration Operation. We used to say, Picasso, let's paint it together. That's just to have it in mind. So what is it? It's not the same approach of the classical hubs led by an industrial. It's a new business model for an onshore hub with a public-private territory service offered to the club of emitters from both sides of the Pyrenees. You can see the map. We'll zoom on the map on the next slide. And it's an open access philosophy. So we had two co-leaders to launch Picasso. We had City of Pau and we had Cluster Avenia. Cluster Avenia is a subsoil cluster, and it gathers more than 200 members, among them, of course, big firms like Total Energy, Engie, Terega, and so on, but also all the subcontractors, all the engineering necessary to subsoil. So Cluster Avenia and the City of Pau took the lead to begin to implement Picasso. It was more than 2 years ago. So it's quite long, but we really think that if we act together and if we gather some people in a consortium very well organized, we can succeed because we can show that you have a strong public and political support for the project, and you have all the people gathering for climate ambition. And that's the point. That's the presentation we made to the citizens and to the political level. At the moment, we are more than, I didn't check before coming, we are more than 40 members to have signed a MOU to join Picasso. And you can see there the front runners, and we have a steering committee. The steering committee has meetings about each 6 weeks, and all the decisions are taken by the steering committee. And you can see in the members of steering committee many different types of players. Avenia, the cluster of course, Repsol, SNAM, Terega. Terega is the southwest of France transporter of gas. Lafarge, a cement plant. Saipem, Sofrecide group Saipem. Schlumberger, Geostock. Jan is there in the forum. IFPEN, BRGM, the University of Pau, the City of Pau, and the CTP is the community of work of the Pyrenees. It gathers, we have a really very dynamic strategy in the Pyrenees, and CTP gathers all the regions from both sides of the Pyrenees. You have Nouvelle-Aquitaine and Occitanie for France, and 4 regions in Spain, Basque Country, Aragon, Navarra, Catalonia, and also Andorra, which is a country. So all the 7 regions have a strategy for climate action. You know that in Pyrenees, climate is not very good because we have going faster than in other parts of Europe, and we have really a climate emergency in the Pyrenees. It's terrible. So we have a strong, altogether, we have a strong strategy in favor of climate. And Picasso is shared by all the political level of the CTP. So as you can see, we have a strong consensus. It's not an industrial which decided to store CO2, but really a consortium of public and private initiative. And that's the way we present that to really get neutral and save jobs of industry in our territory. That's how we present that to the population. As you can see, some figures, you can see the hub is quite in the center of the emissions. You can see we have many emissions coming from the Basque Country, and you can see from Bilbao and so on, they are heavy emitters. Cement plants, energy plants, refineries, chemicals, paper and waste. So many types of emissions. You have emissions in the north of Pau, near Bordeaux. You have emissions near Toulouse, Lafarge cement plant. And you have, of course, emissions in Catalonia and Aragon. So all these emissions are less than 200 kilometers away from the storage sites. So our ambition is not to attract CO2 from the North Sea or the industry on the northern Europe, but to offer a local territory service to the local emitters. That's really the meaning of Picasso and the sense we want to give to Picasso. I have to mention the capacity of the field. It's quite the same that yours in Ravenna, above 500 million tons. So it's quite huge for an storage. About 40 years of emission that we can store in this field. You have there the presentation of the capacity and all the fields we have in the region. Of course, lac is really huge. You can see it represents more than 400 million tons capacity. You have also in this, I'm not an expert, but you can read in this slide, you have the initial pressure and the abandonment pressure. That's interesting. They are, of course, highly depleted. Very important data. And the soil is very low now. It's lower of more than 12 centimeters than it was before the extraction of gas. So very important data. We really hope that injecting CO2, the soil will be able to be just how it was before. That's a circular economy. And you have another major field, Meillon. Meillon, it's just in Pau. It's in the conurbation of Pau. So in an urban area. So the first objective is to begin by lac. We have also Saint-Marcet. Saint-Marcet is next to Lafarge cement plant. It's small capacity. It's now under assessment to see if we can use it or no, but it would be an ideal candidate for Lafarge plant. But we are not so sure that it can work because Saint-Marcet was the first field we exploited many years ago. It was before lac, and the quality of the closing of the wells is not so perhaps so secure. So we are investigating Saint-Marcet at the moment, but if not, of course, we will have to bring, it's about 100 kilometers from lac, away from lac, we'll have to bring CO2 to the storage site of lac. The cost, don't be amazed, but it's very low. It's the total cost you have there, including capture, transport, and storage. But of course, it was estimated by ADEM 2 years ago. It was in September 2020. But of course, taking into account the reuse and the revamping of the existing facilities and the existing pipes. And that's a question. We are not so sure at the moment we can use all the pipes because we have a lot of decommissioned pipes. For instance, between Lac, Bayonne, and Basque Country, we have three networks of pipes, but we are not so sure we can reuse them. We have also, I said that also to the European Commission, we have also competition for this pipe to transport hydrogen. And so it's quite difficult for the industrials to make priority between infrastructure for hydrogen and infrastructure for CO2. It's quite difficult because we don't have yet the business model, and for hydrogen it's quite more difficult to see at the moment, perhaps more than for CO2. So we are really very low. We expect to be at around 100 and 120 euros per ton. It's under assessment also with IFPN and a working group. The business level is the business case is a priority for the years to come. Another point that is very important, Picasso, you can see there the industrial platform of LAC is within the major Seveso 2 industrial platform. It's connected with the port of Bayonne directly by train. And of course, we have there a strong culture of cooperation. And to us, it's really important to reuse CO2 and combine H2 activities. In next year, we will begin plant to produce e-methanol for maritime sector. So we will have green hydrogen production with electric power plant of electricity coming from the power plant of Bordeaux. So very next, we have a direct line with the power plant of Bordeaux in Lac. So that's sustainable electricity. And so we will have green hydrogen, and we combine that with CO2 to make e-methanol. It's on the run. And we have also one e-fuel pilot under study with another major company. So at the same time, we have also plants of biofuels, sustainable biofuels, because we have agriculture quite strong in the territory, and that's an emerging field we want to invest. So we will have in PAU in the next 5 years 3 or 4 plants of low carbon fuels, both biofuels and electric fuels, synthetic fuels. So it's very important because when we speak about social acceptance, if we talk about reuse, it's not talking only about storage. So it's important for the population to combine both. What are the strengths of Picasso Hub? So various emitters, of course. We insist on sustainable, sovereign, and safe underground storage capacities. Sovereign, why? For the state, for the government, it's really very important to have sovereign capacities of storage, not to depend on other countries. Even if it's very friendly in Europe, you can imagine for a country, identify sovereign capacity is key. And that's the case in France. There is now a study in France to do a mapping of all the capacities of storage we have. It's on the run. I don't know the deliveries by the end of the year, at the beginning of 2023. So a very important thing, sovereign capacities. As I commented previously, the large interconnected pipeline network, we can probably retrofit. Successful experience of Rousse, we have no leakage, we have nothing happening. So I think it's very important to tell that and to capitalize on that in heritage of Rousse. Of course, the culture of mutualizations and the synergies we add to new economy, the cost, of course, and this consortium that offers all the skills, on the former oil and gas skills, and the skills and excellence need in Picasso partnership. That's a capital. The support of local authorities. I think it's also a strength of the project. A few words of the societal dialogue. As I said before, in Rousse, we initiate societal dialogue. We began the one for Picasso and for the hub in August. It was, I think it was at the end of August. We had the first meeting. It's organized with the support of the regional politicians. And we have Jeffy's project. I don't know if you know what is Jeffy's project. It's a project of research about social acceptance with some key partners. I think you have involved BRGM, IFP, and Total Energy, and Avenia also. And it's the association Respublica. Respublica is quite an NGO in France that leads the societal dialogue. We don't want to interact directly in the first step, and that another organization that leads this societal dialogue. So we had the first meeting, and we will have 4 in the days to come. We will invite European NGO also to this societal dialogue. So it's very important for the success of the project. Some scale up and improvement from Rousse to Picasso. It's a hub, of course. It's cross-border, multimodal transport, population co-production, very important, population co-production, and not only consultation. That's a step, another step, to co-produce the project and the hub with the populations. And public-private partnership. The timeline, so we are on it. You can see there we began the societal dialogue, and permitting is for next year. It's quite difficult. We are not now very informed about the time we need to get the permitting. It's quite an issue, so I hope I have to hurry a little bit, I'm sorry. So we expect, just to conclude, we expect to have the hub operational in 2030 with from 1 million ton to 3 million ton a year injected. As you can see, we invent a new word, BIMBY, best in my backyard, and not NIMBY, not in my backyard, because we really think we have to, in Europe, to overcome difficulties and to be successful in storage and in many challenges, industrial challenges, and especially in onshore storage, even if it's difficult and pioneering. Many thanks for your attention.